Episode 5 of Syft Data GTM Field Notes.
Point, everything is working from an AV point of view. And so let's get going. So welcome to a GTM Field Notes, where we talk to GTM leaders about what's actually changing in the field, not the theory and not the hype, especially on LinkedIn, but the workflows, experiments, failures, successes, lessons that show up in real revenue teams. I'm Imran Patel, CEO of Syft Data. We spend a lot of time thinking about how GTM teams separate real buying signal from noise, especially as AI changes the way sales and marketing teams operate. Today, I'm joined by my friend and co-host, Andrew Hahn, who has built and led several revenue teams across multiple categories and stages. And our guest today is Alex German, who leads sales at Hiver, which is an AI-powered CX platform. Andrew, I think this one's right up your alley, because Alex is sitting at this intersection of sales leadership, AI adoption, and then what buyers actually believe when every vendor is now saying they have AI, because he sells buyers an AI platform, and you both are very tight. So I'll let you introduce Alex, and we can jump into it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Imran. Alex, before I kick it over, I'll kick it to how you and I know each other. We are both located in San Diego. I am the co-chapter head of Pavilion. You and I have golfed. We have talked about challenges in AI and go-to-market. And I thought you'd be a fantastic host for this. So please tell the audience a bit about yourself, your company, and what you do, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate the time. Another fun fact is I drink coffee, you drink green tea. So my usual coffee suggestions don't always work out for us. So I got to find the best tea spots in North County here.
And we had our first meetup hijacked by bad weather in San Diego, which only happens twice a year. So
yeah. Awesome. So yeah, Alex German, originally from the Bay Area. I've been in the SaaS app layer space for about 15 years, 10 of those in management. Currently at a company called Hiver. It's an omni-channel customer service platform that brings email, chat, voice, and WhatsApp into one place so teams can deliver seamless support without the complexity of traditional help desk. That's kind of your elevator pitch on Hiver. We're trying to lead the charge on this innovation of AI over the last 9 months and deal with some of the largest brands in the world. So excited to connect, talk today, and exchange some notes.
I appreciate that, Alex. I know we had talked in advance about some of the questions that we were going to review today. I actually want to throw a slight curveball. One of the things that I've been writing about lately is the role of a CSO or CRO has changed more in the last few years than it ever has. We used to be good at sales, good at marketing and channel. Now we have sales leadership, business development, go-to-market, coaching, channel, marketing, executive collaboration, fundraising, competitive landscape, branding, CS, enablement, data cleanliness. Where is AI falling on your shoulders as owner, visionary, executor, or is it held within someone else on your team?
Yeah, especially, and great question, especially at a business of Hiver size where there's a lot of Swiss Army knife of contribution. AI does a part in every segment, whether it's building best-in-class lists for your outbound team to not spray and pray, whether it's to get revenue analytics to make sure that you're reporting properly and building the right motions, whether it's creating an account management motion where, hey, let's not just go after our paid accounts, but go after them strategically by understanding a little bit more intent on what the competitive landscape looks like inside of your mapping exercise. So from an AI standpoint, it's kind of involved in every single activity that we're doing. There's been a lot of failures in projects that we've tried to run when it comes to understanding intent or building the proper account mapping exercise, as I noted before. So yeah, I mean, from an AI standpoint, it's more than just, hey, let's get this deal done properly with great sales process and execution. It's, hey, let's make sure we're doing the right blueprinting and research proactively before we even have a chance to talk to the deal.
I love that. That's helpful. It kind of sounds like it's a shared ownership, but you're overseeing the strategy and execution along with the team. So give us a practical version of your role today, like what it is that you're responsible and what type of go-to-market or customer conversations that you're closest to right now.
Yeah, again, pretty big Swiss Army knife of answer here. I oversee global sales, and what's interesting about this opportunity is a large portion of our organization sits in India. So working multiple time zones and making sure that I'm partnering with our cross-functional team members that are in marketing, that are in operations, and finance. So ensuring that we have a strong go-to-market plan, whether it's this month, this quarter, this year. In our business, every month is the most important month of the year. So, we need to make sure that all hands are on deck. My account executive, account management, and business development team sits across the US in New York and California. And then, of course, we're partnering very closely with our customer success org, which is also across India and the US with even folks in the UK. So handling multiple kind of roles and responsibilities of working on the business, but 30% to 40% of my time is spent working with BDRs, reviewing scripts and going deep into kind of the outbound process, making sure that our account management motion has a team-to-team expansion and upsell operation. And then, of course, new business, which drives a lot of the growth, ensuring that our sales process is repeatable, scalable, and we're winning as many transactions as possible. So it's a lot of moving pieces. It's hard to dedicate to one kind of function. But hours can be anywhere from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. pending the activity that's necessary.
Which activity do you think, of all the ones that you mentioned, where do you think AI has kind of had the most impact in your own personal workflows in terms of how you dedicate and allocate your time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say understanding what's happening within our sales process has been kind of the standard. I think that's probably a typical answer you'll get across all go-to-market leadership, whether it's your AI summary you're seeing in Slack from a Gong call, whether it's understanding inside of an account the progression of usage and adoption, so we can attack from an account management standpoint, or whether it's procuring the proper list to go outbound into to use proper messaging for your ICP. I'd say just simplifying that manual work, which again, pretty standard answer, and I'm sure relevant for any progressive go-to-market org has helped a lot.
Okay, thank you.
It's interesting. You and I were golfing. We were talking about how AI has changed more in the last 3 to 6 months than it had in the 5 years that we were knew it was coming. From your seat, what has actually changed at the greatest speed recently? Internally with your team or externally with the buyer who's more and more educated?
Yeah,
and I would qualify that a little bit because recently, by like in the last 6 months, let's say, right? Because there's been a lot of change, especially how agents are getting deployed since December, since like the Claude thing that Andrew was talking about before the show. But yeah, like in the last 6 months, I would say.
Yeah, really great question. And I've seen it more in the last 6 months than I probably have seen in my entire career in terms of bespoke changes and new developments within the sales process and just general operational efficiency. Alone at Hiver, we've created a separate AI go-to-market everything team that strictly focuses on AI use cases and ensuring that every new business prospect or paid customer that comes to us with a bespoke solution has a plan and process for us to innovate and fall into their future plans and developments. It's become a contention point where every single material deal and conversation has a specific ask. And once their help desk customer experience solution to do the following: integration within one of the current platforms that creates a new billing process, routes to specific team members, generates responses, pulls information, sends into X system. So before, when it was standard kind of, hey, omni-channel platform, what can you do for email, phone, chat? Now it's like, hey, what can I do with my 10 other ancillary systems internally without using manpower? And how can Hiver do that for us?
That's really cool. So first of all, painful. Second of all, in a time of high attrition and a lack of reliability in recurring revenue, does that make you stickier? The fact that you're creating these turnkey APIs and agents?
Yeah, it will. It will. I think the dedication on the front end of the process and in showcasing your commitment to grow with the prospect is a no-brainer kind of value add when partnering and servicing.
I have a question. Is this so? This is more about, like, it seems like when you have an account, like, how do you optimize your service delivery? How do you optimize your onboarding? It seems that's where this GTM team is kind of right now focusing.
And I think that's part of it. I think the second part is that customers are just thinking differently today. Aside from consolidation and trying to solve for their departmental need, they're trying to think forward and how can they maximize their 15 internal solutions to all work together. And we've always had these middleware platforms, if this, then that. These have been around for not super long, but a couple decades. Now it's come to the point where I'm ignoring the middleware solution, and how can your platform do this for me properly?
I see.
That's helpful, man. We've been broad, we've been specific, but when you look at the value of AI, and we could talk about across the board, but what do you nerd out about the most? Where are you getting the most value? What gets you excited? Is it how it makes prospecting efficient? Is it the research? Is it the time taken away from personalization? The call prep? Like, what's the biggest lift right now? What's the biggest leverage?
Yeah, I think what's been most interesting is probably AI as a coach. So whether it's analyzing calls, creating decks, pinpointing where reps lost momentum, giving summary and visibility to the entire org, where in the past you meet with one of your team members or managers and you say, hey, talk to me about why these 10 calls don't have next scheduled meetings, what's happening in every deal. I can have that conversation now in about 15 minutes through 100+ deal pipeline just by reading the coaching that AI provides, and my team can create scalability and repeatability, which we've used often, in that they can create consistency in their pitch just by learning from others with AI pinpointing that information, and having the reps free up focus to focus on closing deals versus the non-revenue generating work, I like to call.
That's really interesting because I'm old school / new school, where I love call reviews. I've built a whole psychology around doing this. One of the hardest things that I've realized is it's impossible to coach someone that doesn't want to be coached. So when you talk about this and they get the returns, they understand where they're losing the prospect, they didn't ask the right question. Are you pointing that, or are they coaching themselves? And that's a general question. I don't think it applies to all, but are they self-coaching themselves, or do they need you to point this out?
Yeah, I think from a reality standpoint, taking feedback is
hard.
It's hard, right? I mean, the reality is you can only take kind of what you believe is valuable, and if you trust that person to give that feedback. So I think when it's kind of out in the open and you can call it out specifically, referencing other use cases and or resulting in revenue, that's when it ends up being valuable.
So I have a follow-up on this, and because you touched on something which was about how do you kind of upskill and up-level everyone in terms of AI usage, and that's kind of a, you briefly touched on it, right? It's just like that's kind of one of the one of the ways you can get immense value. What are some of the, are there any processes or any flows where you are doing that, where your team is kind of saying, I'm leveraging AI in this particular way, and that kind of just percolates through the rest of your sales org?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're fairly modern when it comes to our tech stack. We have intent tools, we have call intelligence technology, we have prospecting necessities. We're using a really deep Slack, HubSpot, Gong, intent RB2B integration that kind of ties everything together. So I think for a company of our size, it's some of the best I've ever seen in terms of tech stack, allowing kind of consolidation, but each technology kind of having its own role. So I think from just proof is in the pudding, there's been enough kind of use case and central visibility across the org that we've seen some of these cases resolve in wins. And something as simple as making sure that for every material deal, they have a summarized deck created by Gamma or Claude that is sent to the prospect, summarizing your entire journey, inviting them to a deal room that already involves their customer success manager, so they can proactively talk about what's happening now, what's happening later, creating that collaboration process, using AI to send in the calls and the quotes and the summaries and the pains. So yeah, I think we do a pretty good job at that. Of course, we can be doing better, but at least we're taking the initiative.
It's funny. So I'm going to totally boomer myself, but as a revenue leader in B2B SaaS for 20 years, I think if I saw this in 2021, this podcast, I don't know if I'd be able to follow the conversation. And I think that's what's actually really exciting about it. It's the evolution and the development, how quick it's going.
Boomer myself is such an interesting verb.
I boomered myself by saying I'm going to boomer myself. I'm okay with that, man.
But yeah, I was actually quite, I think earlier when Alex said that in the last 6 months, it has changed more than in more than any time in his career. I think that's kind of a very, very, I mean, I'm pretty close to some of this stuff. So I'm kind of, but that just hit home for me. It's just that it has been such a transformative thing for folks in the last 6 months, their experience in how their work has changed.
Yeah, it's cool to try something new and have that wow realization moment on where we can be spending different time. Your sales reps deal every day with challenges or desires for your product, really outcomes. And I'm sure they say, well, we can do that with AI. And it's a really broad term, and there's a lot of skepticism. So when you speak to prospects and it's an ambiguous, yeah, we can do that with AI, how are you taking a deeper dive? Is it solution consultants? Is it use cases? What are they most skeptical about when you use to say we can do it with AI?
Yeah, great question. I think, again, going back to our earlier conversation where every use case is bespoke, you have to have as many storytelling examples and case studies as possible. We all know the most powerful tool of sales is storytelling, and having other customers have that feeling that their peers and competitors in the industry are doing something the same and or better than them. So that's a full-time role of the entire company, and that's from product marketing to customer success to sales, and making sure that we've gathered enough stories to be able to showcase from a seller's proof perspective on paper or on the demo, or B, verbally through storytelling and examples and case studies, and ensuring that we have a memorable experience that we can get them to that aha moment as quickly as possible. Because the reality of the situation is, whether it's MySpace or any other kind of product that's app layer or AI, there's 15 of them that do the same thing.
Yep.
So it's a matter of, hey, can I create that story a little bit more powerful and create that best-in-class experience that they want to work with me?
That's interesting. One of the challenges I have in sales is the old quote, no one ever gets fired for hiring the big four. If you go to your boss and you hire a known entity in a place, at worst, it'll do well. You guys are doing well, but you're an emerging technology. How do you do competitive displacement when someone says, we're also speaking to a competitor that's at 500 million or a billion, when product is so easy to build and what you do isn't so special?
Yeah, I think that probably and again, this story might not necessarily change. This is really going to just come to kind of their experience throughout the process and how white glove we can be on the back end.
Sure.
So, you can talk about economic concessions and what might that look like, but from a buyer standpoint, I always tell prospects, hey, I don't want you to buy us because of price. It needs to be because of the experience and the trust that we can develop on the front end and the back end. So just from a company of Hiver size, we candidly have best in class support in the customer support industry.
Yep.
On a G2, you'll see we have 3-minute or less SLA on email or chat, which is best I've ever seen in any kind of help desk category. So we win oftentimes because of our best in class support. But the reality is the people we put in front on the front end and back end is what will create that ability to win.
I love the saying, it should be a bumper sticker. If you solely buy on price, you'll end up buying twice.
I like that.
And your own customer support and the experience that you deliver is indicative of what your software will do for them, right? Like it's just sort of like is that part of the story as well?
Yeah, absolutely. The reality is in a competitive and sensitive category like ticketing and help desk and omni-channel, where every email, every chat might be the make or break between earning more business for that business. They have to have the protection and backing on the back end that oftentimes a company, even with best in class AI, may not be able to support.
Yeah, I want to kind of zoom in a little bit on the thing that you mentioned around buyer psychology, which is that people have, like, when they come to you for your prospects, they have like bespoke needs. And is the shift now that they have bespoke needs and they understand now because of AI, you should be able to deliver those bespoke needs much more quickly to them and show value much more quickly? Is that the shift in your customer base?
Yeah, look, I mean, the reality is if you don't have evangelical AI built within your solution and or plans to, you will fall behind. It's the same story that I've seen before in my work management experience when I was at a company called Reich from 1 to 150 million ARR. There were 10 to 15 players that did the same thing, and some of them jumped in front of the others just by evangelizing faster. So the reality is everybody's competing today to be at the forefront of this AI vision, and we're only in year 2, maybe 3. So this is the time now to shine, and we have probably the next 18 months to create that vision that and I'm speaking generally, that you as a company have that ability to be in front of your peers.
My wife is a chief product officer, and she tells me all the time that the best product doesn't always win. And I think you really spoke to the importance of brand, the importance of customer service and delivering those outcomes. If you've ever been on LinkedIn, everyone there is an expert at AI and are always doing breakthroughs. So when you look at an organization like yourself, should sales and marketing, how should they decide on the build versus buy, on what we should be doing internally versus outsourcing it to not only someone that can build it right, but maintain and develop the solution?
Yeah, I really just would break it down into a couple key points. Number one, is it a competitive advantage? If so, I build it. 2, how fast do we need it? Is it going to influence my 80% of customers in 30 days, or is it going to take me 6 months to build? Buy. Is there a data risk? That's an often a point of contention you hear from your prospects. So I would say you would buy for speed and commodity functions, and you would build for differentiation. That'd be my immediate answer.
One of my favorite quotes, we were selling to Sam Adams Brewery, an AI solution, and we got by all the gatekeepers. We were speaking to the decision maker, and he looks around the room and he says, if we build it internally, will it make our beer taste any better? And they all said no. He goes, we should focus our resources on that.
Yeah. I think it's kind of the same. I'll put on my millennial hat and talk about pre-AI and building best-in-class analytics.
Yeah.
And companies took years to say, hey, we have the best data. We built this customized workflow and reporting that will give you the answers to make better business decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had just OEM'd a company like Looker, just example, would I have been able to close 80% more business faster within those 6 months? And in story, been able to raise the valuation of my company faster versus taking a year to perfect best-in-class reporting. So kind of the same thing with AI.
Yeah.
This was in the product though, right? This is like more, okay. And then from an internal tooling perspective, right? What do you think in your experience has been, like things that you have built that you shouldn't have built them, that you shouldn't have built, or vice versa, things that you ended up buying that you should have built?
Yeah, it's a great question because there have been some failures in terms of some of the AI piece. When it comes to, for example, AI outreach, we had some reply rates tank, spam flagged mostly, right? Mm-hmm. Prospects push back, but can make you lazy. So just something to really think about. And there is that manual process still involved of building out the front end before you let AI do its own thing. Same thing when it comes to.
So is that something that you bought off the shelf,
Yeah.
and then kind of like an AI SDR or some other kind of solution?
Something along those lines, whether it was intent technology or an AI SDR. So yeah, I mean I think that's a pretty good example alone.
Yeah, thank you.
A lot of egos again on LinkedIn about how everyone's doing everything right. I actually prefer the humility because, as you said, we've advanced so far in 6 months. Can you talk to us about a project in AI go-to-market that fell short of what you were trying to do? What'd you learn, and is your approach different now?
Yeah, I think this kind of segues into that whole AI SDR thing. And so, I mean, you can talk about other stuff as well. I guess
we could edit this as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Redundant.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good example. We can also talk about the purchase of some intent technology that kind of that new story of person level identity, so you can get a better understanding of who's visited your company. We bought one of the premier solutions out there. I won't name it, but we did a 120-day pilot. It looked beautiful on paper, had all the warm and fuzzies of great Slack integration, great data, really clean to use, but we created 0 MRR in pipeline versus building it on our own with the free tool and actually putting a little bit more manpower into it. We've been able to create a couple $100,000 of pipeline in the last quarter alone. So again, everyone's doing their best iteration of best-in-class AI, and sometimes you got to just test it out to make it work.
I've never seen Imran smile so much and hold back. Imran, you want to run with this one, or is this the director?
No, I mean, it's like, it's like, yeah, as soon as I hear intent and like, I was like, okay, what tool is he talking about? Does the tool's name have a number in it?
And you have a full-time admin dedicated to rolling it out? Yes.
Yeah.
It's actually not that one, but
okay.
It's not that one now.
It's not that one. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I think there is because we are in the intent space as well, right? And people do use us in a way where they. I just had a LinkedIn post about it the other day, right? Which is that like a lot of people are now trying to build workflows in-house because the tools don't give them the workflows, and so then they need good data to run off of, right? And intent is one of those things where really at the end of it should generate pipeline, and a lot of intent tools that are so far removed from the actual outcome that you buy a lot of it and then they don't provide ROI. And sometimes it's just the quality of data, but then sometimes it's also how the data gets integrated into your workflows and and so on. So it seems like in your case, I was trying to kind of figure out, was it the quality of data wasn't there, or the data was just not flowing in a way that you would leverage it a bit better?
Yeah, the reality is, I think it was all of the above.
Okay.
It was the contacts, the accuracy of the data, and the actual follow-up just resulted in no activity.
So if I hear you correctly, if there was a tool out there that could provide a higher level of accuracy, Slack integrations were just table stakes, of course, but have a higher level of automation, insights, and identification, maybe we should have a call one day.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's not for the podcast. That's for
no. It's like I was like, this is we should talk about we don't talk about Syft in this call as much, but yeah, I would love to kind of have a separate conversation about. But I always I think there is this other theme about this topic, which is with AI orchestration, right? Is becoming so much cheaper for people, for companies to build around, right? And so either the vendor, as Alex was saying earlier, provides that orchestration, which is pretty solid, or provides good data for you to build your own orchestration. And then the second part of it is AI is only as good as the data that you give it. So that's kind of the other part of it. And I think both are like very, very, very kind of juicy topics to get into. But like I'll kind of I won't go there. We have a bunch of other interesting stuff to cover as well.
We talked about AI adoption and rolling it out, and ideas come from everywhere. As a leader, how do you train reps? How do you enforce is a strong word, put some guardrails around adoption, best practice, and making sure everyone's on the same page?
Yeah, great question. I think it's making sure that, one, you have great cross-functional strategy and partnership, and you're not just rolling things out to roll them out. So ensuring, one, there's some kind of POC period that's aligned from an executive priority standpoint, and your whole company is aware of the initiative, why you're doing it, and what you plan for an outcome standpoint.
Yes.
So that's internal alignment. There's a book that one of my old mentors passed out to a leadership org. It's called ADKAR: Awareness, Desire, Knowledge, Ability, and Reinforcement. ADKAR. So ensuring from a change management perspective, that is top of line. And then once you determine that there's going to be an outcome and you've tested accordingly, ensure that your team is trained, you're seeing some outcome out of it, having some KPIs that you agree on in the beginning of the engagement, and hopefully you get some wins.
I like that a lot. I think it's when you look at some of the challenges in running a team, it's I need you to do this or do that. What I've always found most successful is leading from the why. Hey, we're adopting this tool and this is what we're trying to achieve. This is going to be our outcomes, our outputs, and here's how it's going to benefit your role. First, go do that. And I think you summed that up quite well.
Yeah, it's interesting because every conversation and question, we want to factor AI into it, right? Like how can AI help us be a better sales team? How can this technology help us be better? But at least in our revenue generating function, some of the old school principles still apply. And the art and science of sales and customer success and making sure you do right by the customer still comes from the psychology and the experience and the passion you have. And AI will help, but it's not going to get you across the line.
Okay, so now we're going to nerd out again, Alex. Golf. You and I golfed about a month ago, and I think there's some real similarities here because we're talking about tools to make your game better. And TaylorMade does a great job of marketing every year, saying this club will go 10 yards further. And if that was true, we'd be hitting at 500, 600 yards by now. So AI is a tool. It is a better club. But I think at the foundation, you still have to have form, the execution, the mindset, and the ability to be coached or self-coach to get better. And that was my point. And TaylorMade will be sponsoring this podcast going forward. One of the tough questions that you must get is in working with your CFO, making investments in some of these. So I imagine they're going to ask, if we add this tool, add this solution, how do we measure it? What's the impact? What's the benefit? I don't think anyone's doing it well, so let me lower the bar. How do you communicate either during the procurement phase or during the assessment of renewal what the actual impact is on pipeline, revenue, outcomes, funnel?
Yeah, so taking a step back, we have a great finance leader here that has a fair amount of trust with me. So that conversation, which I'm used to quite often in the past, whether it's sending an email to deal desk, scheduling 5 follow-ups and getting the 5.9 challenger sale approvals, isn't as applicable for me today, luckily. But the reality is that from a finance leader perspective, it's, hey, how can I solve for time or money?
Sure.
And can I increase revenue? Can I help with hiring goals? Can I move faster? It's kind of that build versus buy strategy, because that's what a finance leader should think about as the financial watchdog of a company. And if I can prove the build versus buy, I think that's how I can win on procuring new tech.
Is it mostly? Sorry. Is it mostly like has that like, you said time or money, right? As you have introduced these newer tools in your organization, has it skewed one way or the other? Like one of the big things has been like people are like now, okay, people think about AI as sort of going after labor budgets rather than tool budgets. And so when you kind of make the case for your CFO, does it come from like, hey, is it sort of a labor replacement or augmentation mindset, or is it more like we just need this tool to be more efficient mindset? Like, how do you has that framing changed for you?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is unless you're buying ERP technology and you're buying something between $5,000 and $50,000, if it can't get you 1 or 2 deals back and you're not certain of it, it's probably a bad investment, which is why we struggle on the revenue side sometimes historically saying like, hey, customer, I do not want to purchase tech for $15,000 and do nothing when that's going to cost you about 3 happy hours with your company. So that ROI is easier for a leader like myself to pitch, because I get it. Like, hey, we're going to invest 10 grand on a dialer or a deal room that'll help us win 1 more deal. Like, that's enough from an ROI standpoint.
It's always that outcome on pipeline for you. That kind of is how you, okay.
It's almost like the qualitative mixed with the quantitative. You can do homework and ROI projections as quick as possible, but to your point, if your ACV is 50, 60 grand, the tool is 20 grand, it's got no learning curve, and you're going to land at least 2 more deals from this, you can almost figure out the math on the back end.
Right.
I like that. The question everyone asks every day, whether you're in sales, product, marketing, is AI going to take my job?
Andrew's just saving the hard stuff for the end.
Oh gosh, no one's going to replace me on the podcast circuit, but I meant more on the direct revenue leadership side.
Yeah. So here's the reality that I think about. I don't think AI will take your job, especially on the revenue side. I think someone using AI will. So test reps do more of what great salespeople already do. And if they're leveraging the tech to do more with the same way we talk about hiring goals and hitting revenue targets, if they can do more with the same or more with less, they will replace you. So AI can't replace trust, reading the room, being someone people want to buy from. But if I'm going side by side with someone who has equal skill, that's the jeopardy that I put myself in.
How have you incentivized that in your organization? Like, let's say you have an amazing rep, for example, not like super up to date on like, some of the AI stuff. And if, let's say, if they were on the same trajectory, like 6 months a year down the line, by your logic, it would be hard for you to kind of, retain them. So how have you kind of, nudge people in that direction in your org?
Yeah, I think it goes back to storytelling and sharing examples. And I think that rep, if they had the trajectory 6 months from now, they probably see themselves the success their peers are having, and they'll want to do the same thing. So it's as simple as buying or selling a deal to somebody who doesn't want to fall behind their peers or competitors. It's the same story internally. If I see someone doing the same job as me, but they're doing it better because they're taking the utensils to improve and succeed, I want to do the same thing.
So you think there is just a natural, like, competitive element to kind of getting better that kind of makes right now the organization adopt AI, at least in your case?
I believe with the desire to have personal, professional, and financial success, you need to use all the utensils at your disposal. And if others are doing it better than you, you need to look at your peers and your competition and do better. And same thing comes from a leadership standpoint. If I see my peers in my industry getting better outcomes from their team by leveraging AI, why should I fall behind?
Yeah, it's a great point. I've seen people fall behind and they've asked for advice. How can I catch back up? There's a difference between falling behind and not having started. So if we look at people that feel they might be falling behind a bit, you got a CRO, VP of sales, a founder. If they're listening right now and they want to go from good to great, what is your advice that they do in the short and midterm?
So the short and midterm here is just like, I'll make it more specific. Like, let's say 30 days, 1 quarter.
Yeah, I'd say evaluate what you have in place today. Look at your peers and competitors, see how they're doing, see how they're progressing, what kind of successes they're seeing, and try to replicate and do better. In a very competitive industry, all you can do is look at your peers and see how they're advancing fast and try to replicate and with your pitch and story, of course, but there's no shame in doing what others are doing if they've already proven it.
Cool. I have 2 follow-ups on that. One is, how do you yourself keep up to date on like, okay, what is like, that top 1% for you in your industry? How do you know what is the standard, the bar for you? How do you keep up to date?
Absolutely. That's a great question. There's many forums and peers that I can communicate with, but most notably, Andrew runs an incredible sector of Pavilion in San Diego. So whether that's meetups, online or in person, talking to peers in my industry is absolutely a necessity. Ensuring that I understand all the tech that's latest that's out there for the development of my team and myself personally. So people, process, technology, absolutely.
Yeah, we had Andy Joels last week on the show, and then he's like, he runs a lot of, I'm pretty sure you know him, AI stuff.
He runs the AI school for GTM at Pavilion. And they set a record. They had over 20, no, I think it was 946 attendees, which is the highest attended Pavilion.
Yeah, and my second question now, which is that, like, let's say I'm somebody, I'm a sales leader, CRO, listening in right now. What is the first workflow that I should go back and inspect, given Alex's experience in terms of like this is where I would start? And let's say I'm not at the cutting edge of things.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reality is that from a sales process perspective, you have your top of funnel, mid funnel, bottom funnel, right? So let me evaluate all 3 like I would over the last few decades and understand where there's losses in the business. And then how can I incorporate AI to get more information that I can roll out across my entire organization so they can do better, whether it's on the prospecting research portion, whether it's on the qualification call, whether it's on the actual demonstration, the follow-up, the executive use case that I put together. Everything that I've done previously from a sales process standpoint? Where can I incorporate AI to make my job easier?
Well, I'm gonna put you on spot. Where would you start? So there are like those three places, but like where have you personally seen the biggest impact?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be transparent. I even prior to this great podcast today, I was on a call earlier today trying to identify what the ICP research should look like for the lookalike current customers that we're going after. So an example would be, we have 5 great customers in the logistics category using the Hiver platform. How can I prove out efficiently that this data that we've put together from a list standpoint is the right outbound campaign list to hand to my BDRs to go after? And going through that list, we realized that a lot of those names weren't relative. And we as a leadership team and a management team need to do a better job of arming our front end BDRs so they're spending their time on actual revenue generating work and not just kind of 2019 selling where it's like, hey, BDR, go put your own list together and spend 8 hours doing it. And then maybe 75% of that list is applicable. How can I incorporate AI, get a better list, better targeted ICP campaign, and then arm my BDRs just to go make calls and emails and get to the opportunities faster?
Yeah, that's such so list building is like, so yeah, I mean, I this resonates so strongly. Like the list is, and everybody thinks of list as this static thing, but it's actually a fairly dynamic thing that evolves. And because of AI, you can actually evolve it much faster because everybody's lists are. I was earlier on a call with a customer and I asked, like, do you have a target account list? Because that's something that we use in our product to kind of prioritize accounts for them. And then we build out a list for people as well as part of our own GTM engineering services. And it's one of the most common things. But yeah, the list is so important because the list is not everything is downstream of it. If you don't have a good list, you can't get good messaging, you can't get good timing, none of it works.
Alex, I made a joke about a director's cut of this podcast, but I had a really interesting question I'd love to throw in here. Software has historically been bought top down. Executives making a decision. Your CFO says we're using ADP. Your CRO says we're using Salesforce. Are you seeing in your own life and work ideas coming from bottom up? So you talked about those SDRs, BDRs that are young at their job, but they're still really close. They've kind of grown up with AI. Are they recommending tools to you, efficiencies to you?
Yes, that's a great point. I'm really thankful you brought that up. Regularly, we're seeing BDRs and AEs showcase technology that we may have not heard of, or something they came across that they're piloting on their own. Maybe they even putting their own credit card into the system. But oftentimes, mostly from an outreach and prospecting standpoint, we're coming up with new technology to evaluate because of some buy-in from somebody who's more in tune with the day-to-day of their own job.
I would hold on to those employees. I love employees that have intrinsic characteristics and motivation, and those that are challenging the status quo in a positive way to bring more efficient. How can I make more money? It's a great rep to have on your team.
Absolutely.
I have one kind of closing question, and I know we're almost at time, but like, I'd like to learn a little bit more about and this is on topic with AI. So you are at Hiver, customer, success platform, customer experience platform. This is an area where AI has a profound impact. I think there are two really product market fits with AI, which is coding, agentic coding, and customer success agents. And so tell us a little bit about where Hiver is going. As somebody who operates in this space, how have things changed from you from a product perspective?
Yeah, I've been here for 26 months, and the innovation from being an inbox management platform to a best-in-class omni-channel solution that focuses on email, phone, and chat, to the development of agents that should replace 30% of the manual tickets that you're handling today. At Hiver, we still believe that you need agents to resolve tickets because oftentimes from a B2B perspective, these businesses, because we focus more on B2B than B2C, these businesses, when they get requests, these are dire needs from their customers. So sometimes they need that human interaction. But from an agent standpoint, we believe that everything that's repeatable and scalable can be resolved through agentic AI. And we're in the forefront of developing these best-in-class agents that are out there with some of the customer experience help desk solutions that you're used to hearing about. So lots changed over the last 12 months, and we look forward to continuing to innovate.
And how is I couldn't resist the follow-up. How is it, because you sell agentic AI, right? How has that changed for you as a buyer? Like, is that, like, you touched upon it a little bit, like, do you kind of now go look at a solution and you're like, well, unless it does, like, it gets the outcome in an through an AI agent, like, it's not even a consideration? Are you at that stage, or like it's a little bit more nuanced? Are there like solutions where you kind of have just rejected, like, okay, this is not agentic, this doesn't get me, like, all the way there?
Yeah, transparently speaking, I'm actually not there yet. I'm still in kind of the discovery, learn more phase of AI, where yes, it's fantastic. I love some of the integrations and being able to get to data faster, but I'm not super opposed to some of the human intervention yet, especially as someone who wants things done right the first time. So I'm still in my discovery phase as I'm progressing with society here on AI.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being transparent and candid as well.
Yeah, I think none of us, I think we all wake up saying we need to know more, and I think it's a growth process. So humility in this process is imperative.
Agreed. I think we are close to time, and I think this was a great a session. I call them sessions. It's like, we are like just jamming together and trying to make sense of things around us in GTM. But thank you, Alex, for taking the time, and thanks everyone who has been listening to this all this time.